För första gången någonsin så är det en animerad film som är öppningsfilm på Cannesfestivalen. Filmen heter Upp och är den 10:e långfilmen från Pixar Animation Studios. Alla filmer bolaget gjort hittills har blivit stora succéer och har gjorts i samarbete med Walt Disney Pictures som sedan 2006 också äger Pixar. John Pottebaum jobbar sedan 11 år tillbaka på Pixar. Hans titel är Character Effects Supervisor och han håller med om att Disneys handritade filmer även så här i datoranimeringens tid är en inspirationskälla och mall.
We're definitely looking back at a lot of the footage from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and Dumbo and actually early Goofy films when how we're making films today. It's actually some of the wonderful things that are easy to do in hand-drawn animations. Well, I shouldn't say easy to do, but that Disney really mastered early on in 2D animation. We're still struggling to get as good in 3D animation. Whenever we start building a characters, the first thing the animators tests and the first thing the art department draws poses of are the squash and stretch of the face, which is this same thing Disney mastered. And each time we're getting a little better at it, and each time animation and art has asked us to push it a little further. So it's an area we're still growing in. And so I don't expect 2D to stop influencing 3D animation for quite some time.
So when you came, had Pixar made any big movie?
So Pixar had just made Toy Story. So it was, everybody was still kind of nervous, you know, because it was a huge hit, but nobody knew if it was going to be a one-hit wonder or a fluke or just a fad. So while we were working on A Bug's Life, the second film, we all still had the kind of attitude that, yeah, we think this is great, but, you know, if the movie flops, this company might fold. So it was very, you know, biting our fingernails, waiting to see how it did. And fortunately, we haven't had a flop yet. So we've been really fortunate with our track record.
Hey, do I spy a little pinstriping tattoo back there?
But I always believe that with hard work and a little luck, it's only a matter of time before I'm discovered.
What would you say is the secret behind the success?
The main thing is, I think if we see something wrong, we stop to fix it. The Pixar has always viewed that story is king, and we work on our stories, and if we see something isn't working, even if it means we have to stop and rewrite the whole thing, we're willing to do it, and that's been costly and very expensive. We've done some major rewrites and major changes very late in the game on other films, notably Toy Story 2 and Ratatouille, that I don't think another studio would have done. Certainly extremely expensive, but Pixar's not willing to let a poor product leave, and they're willing to do everything they can to fix it. Pixar doesn't want to be so afraid of losing that top seat that we're afraid that we don't take any risks. And in fact, each film we're hoping to take risks, and you know, one of those might fail. WALL-E, a love story starring two robots with no dialogue for the first 20 minutes, knowing that audiences would actually appreciate that. We weren't certain of, but we were willing to give it a try. Or even before that, Ratatouille, who would think little kids would think rats were cute? And in Finding Nemo, who would want to hug a fish? All of these movies frightened us. They were different. They weren't what audiences had before. But we don't want to make the same movie over and over again. We want to do things different. And with each time we do something different, there's a chance it might not be as well received.
So I suppose you will wait and see how this goes, and then maybe 3D is the new vision for Pixar?
I think 3D is going to be the vision for more than Pixar. Pixar is very dedicated, Pixar and Disney are very dedicated to 3D. In fact, in addition to Toy Story 3 going ahead in 3D, Toy Story 3 3D, Pixar is going back to Toy Story 1 and 2 and re-rendering them, going back to all of the original data and generating new images to be able to present those as a 3D double feature prior to the release of Toy Story 3, which is a fun archaeological expedition into our old data files to try and find all of the original data from 1995, almost 14 years ago, and get it all working again.
They're even compatible with new computers?
No, not at all. Our computers, our software, we're continually trying to push things forward. So our software from the year before is rarely compatible. So going 14 years back, we've got to bring up old versions of software, bring up old versions of computers. We've got some incredibly old dusty boxes that we're brushing off and plugging in and seeing if they still work.
Disney Pixar invites you to discover a lost world with these guys.
Hi, Mr. Fredrickson. Please let me in.
No. All right.
The characters in the movie, if they're based on any living person or something like that.
Oh, I think all of our characters are based a little bit on different people. Carl, I don't think there's any one individual that he was pulled from. It's kind of funny to see there are a lot of parallels in the real world. In fact, early in the film, you'll see he's stubbornly living in his house, even though modern construction has taken over the rest of the block and has bulldozed the entire block. We read in the news a little after the fact, the same thing happened to a little old lady in Seattle, Washington. Her entire block had been bulldozed for the building of a new mall, and they left a little pocket of the mall cut out for her house. It was a pure coincidence, although I do have to admit, Russell, I'm very sure they tried to make a very small Pete Sohn. He's one of our story artists, an incredibly funny guy and an incredibly talented actor. And Russell just looks so much like him.
Does anyone know where they are?
Boop, beep, 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 boop, boop. With my Wilderness Explorer GPS, we'll never be lost.
What is new about this movie?
What's
from your point of view?
Well, I think I don't want to give too much away, but it's an action-adventure story starring a 78-year-old man. It's following his arc, not just on a simple adventure, but trying to find his place in life and continue living his life. It's kind of a coming of old age story, and I don't think I've seen anything like that in recent history. Actually, I'm kind of waiting with bated breath to see it with an audience, because that's actually when we've seen it ourselves, and I've seen it myself, but you don't really feel the film the same way until you see it with an audience that hasn't seen it before. And so that I'm not going to have a chance to do until it comes out in theaters in a few weeks. So we'll see how it goes.
What do these do, boy?
Would you estoy de acuerdo contigo? I use that collar. What? To talk with. I would be happy if you stop.